Intro Algebra Lesson 4-6a. Now with all the time that we've spent talking about linear equations, we know how to make input-output tables to graph. We know how to find x and y intercepts. We know how to find the slope. Now we're going to talk about how we can kind of combine those and come up with a form that's really easy for us to graph. And that form is known as slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And it's just like any other form we've dealt with, that the m, we've already seen this before, that is known as the slope, that hasn't changed. But you have now is a value over here that's a b value, which we will always remember as the y-intercept. And the way you can prove that is, anytime you want to find the y-intercept, you should be able to plug 0 in for x. If you plug 0 in for x, it won't matter what the slope is, because 0 times anything is 0. So that cancels it out, which means y equals that value. That's how you would find your y-intercept. It's called slope-intercept form for a reason, because these are the two pieces that it's made up of. A slope and a y-intercept. That's why they call it slope-intercept form. So that seems to make, logical sense. As far as finding the slope and the y-intercept of these equations, let's take a look at this right here. Y equals 2x plus 4. Y equals mx plus b. The m is the slope, the b is the y-intercept, so 2 is our slope. If you want to write it as a fraction, that'd be 2 over 1, and the slope, or the y-intercept, is 4. If you saw negative 3x plus 7, y equals mx plus b, then our slope would be negative 3 over 1, and our y-intercept would be 7. If you just see y equals mx, there's no difference between that and this, so you now have y equals mx plus b. So our slope is 7, or 7 over 1, and our y-intercept is 0. Or if you see y equals x squared. Now y equals x squared is not slope-intercept form. This is not a linear equation. So I put that one up there to trick you. There's no slope on that one. There's no y-intercept necessarily from that. So you got to be careful. It must be in this form of y equals mx plus b. If it's subtraction, you can change it to plus negative, and you'll have y equals mx plus b. So let's try this out. We want to graph this equation right here. Everything we need to graph is located here. This is one of the easiest methods for graphing. You don't have to make an input-output table. You just have to be able to recognize some important pieces of information. For example, this 4 is our slope, which we know the slope is always the rise over the run. So you could rewrite it as 4 over 1 or negative 4 over negative 1. Those are the same thing. 4 over 1 and negative 4 over negative 1. So here's our slope. That's pretty good. We also know that we have a y-intercept at positive 2. So that's a really important piece of information. With these two pieces of information, I can make the entire graph. So I go to my graph paper. This y-intercept tells me exactly where I should start. I go to the y-axis, and I start at 2, because that's what my y-intercept is. From that point, not from the origin, from that point I'm going to go up 4 and right 1. So I will go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 1. I can go up 4 and right 1 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 1. But it also says I can go down 4 and left 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 1. So I can do that numerous times, and hopefully if I've done it correct, it will produce a nice straight line. If I have not done it right, then it will not make that straight line. No input-output table is needed. I need my y-intercept, which is right there. And then my slope tells me to go up 4 and right 1. So I go up 4, right 1, up 4, right 1, and that's how I graph this equation. Alright, let's try it again. Negative 2x plus y equals 5. Now you'll notice this does not quite look like y equals mx plus b. It's close, but in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, y is all alone. Y is not all alone here. But I can get it alone. I just have to play the shuffling game. And the way I play the shuffling game is I add 2x to both sides. Now I end up with y equals 2x plus 5. which if you ask me, looks pretty similar. Y equals mx plus b looks like the same form. So we've got all the information we need. This is the slope at 2, which is 2 over 1, or negative 2 over negative 1. And we have our y-intercept at positive 5. Everything I need to make a graph is here. So I go to my graph paper, my y-intercept is at 5, 2, 4, 5. And I'm going to go up 2 and right 1. Up 2 and right 1, up 2 and right 1, up 2 and right 1, up 2 and right 1. I can do this as long as I need to. But I need to make sure that I know it's making a straight line. I could also go down 2 and left 1, down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1. Still makes a nice straight line. And there we go. So again, the y-intercept is a crucial piece. It tells us where to start. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they put that 5 right there, and then they go up 2 and right 1 from the origin. We do not want to do that. You want to go up 2 and right 1 from the y-intercept. Tells you where to start. All right, one more. Now this one says y equals negative 3. Does not look very similar to y equals mx plus b. One of the biggest mistakes is people think that's the slope, the negative 3. It's not. What you'll notice is this equation does not have any x's in it. In other words, it's fair to say there are 0 x's in this equation. So you could say y equals 0x plus a negative 3. Adding 0 x's to this problem doesn't change it, just changes its appearance. But you'll notice now you have a slope of 0. And anytime you have a slope of 0, you know you're dealing with a horizontal line. So if m equals 0, then you know it's horizontal. That's a pretty big key. You still have your y-intercept right here. All the information we need now is to go over to our graph, put a dot at negative 3 on the y-axis, and then we know it's a horizontal line. So we grab a line, and we make it horizontal. It's horizontal through that coordinate. That's where we would be. So even if it looks tricky, you can still rewrite it in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is great. Look for your y equals mx plus b. M is slope, b is y-intercept.